Ooh, sorry. Just playing a little bit of Football Manager on my phone, and it's fun, I have to admit. It's something good on the go. But what about the full-blown thing on your PC or your laptop? That's what I'm talking about. It's a game which I grew up playing. Here is the latest iteration of Football Manager. I love these Football Manager games. I absolutely adore it. Now, when this show first started, I think one of the early games which I took a look at was in fact an earlier iteration of Football Manager. It's a game or type of game I've been playing since I was about 13, 14 years old, the days of Championship Manager. I progressed on to the ones on a desktop. I progressed on to the ones on the mobile devices, and I still cannot get enough of it. If you are a fan of football, it's the perfect game for you, apart from FIFA, which of course is more about being a player. If you think you can take control of an entire club, this is where you need to sit down for hours and hours and hours and simply game away. So for this one, you may notice I don't have a box. I've digitally downloaded off Steam, I might add, Football Manager 2014, and it is an astounding game. I mean, it is so deep and so rich, I personally cannot believe it. But at the same time, if that's not really your cup of tea, there are other facets of the game which allow you to speed through it while still having fun and really harking back to the old days. If you're around my age, say 28, you remember the days of Champman, and you probably want a game more akin to that, and there is an option. So I'm gonna get in-depth and analyze everything about Football Manager 2014, which in my books makes it one of the games of the year if you're really, really into football. Outside of FIFA 14, this is the other game you have to play. Now, what's really cool is there's now cloud saving. So basically, I can start a game in the morning at home, and then I can go to work, I can go do this, I can go do that, and then I can sit down in another office, open my laptop, and pick up exactly where I left off by just accessing the cloud save, which for me is awesome. Instead of waiting to come home to play, if I'm out and about, if I'm on holiday somewhere, for example, I can crack open my laptop, I can connect to the internet, and suddenly I have the exact game where I left it, which is fantastic. So let's get to the nitty-gritty, the part of the game which really matters. The bulk of the game, I'm sure, would belong in the main mode, which is really, really thorough. Now, don't expect big wholesale changes like we saw last year. Consider this year more of a refinement when you're playing, not just in terms of the gameplay, what you can do, but also the entire interface. For example, the inbox, obviously that's a really big part of the game. It's where you get all your notifications. If someone wants a player, you get news about a player, or maybe, you want to go buy someone, you have to get updated, you get acknowledgement from the press, etc. It's much cleaner, and now it's color-coded as well. So they try to group messages together, more akin to real life. If you've played around with, say, your Gmail, you can color-code everything, so it's much easier to access what you want and what you don't want. So on the whole, it's really nice. On that aspect, in terms of cleanness, not only is it the presentation, but also when you're actually playing the game. For example, previously, supposing one of your scouts comes to you or your assistant manager and says, your player, Sergio Aguero, I think that he needs to have some more personalized training. Now previously, you had to exit, go to training, click there, click here, find Aguero. Now, a drop-down tool comes down, based on what your assistant manager or whatever piece of information you just had, allows you to directly implement it on the spot without having to go through 2 or 3 different processes. Obviously, this makes life a lot easier, and sometimes in the past you would struggle to remember where this and this and this is, whereas now you can do it straight away and choose to ignore it obviously as well. You don't have to implement exactly what's said. Now in terms of the depth, obviously you can take control of any club pretty much in the entire world, but Sports Interactive's alliteration of the UEFA Financial Fair Play means you can't just take Manchester City and buy everybody out there like Ronaldo, Messi, Rooney, whoever your favorite player is. There are obviously blocks, stumbling blocks along the way to stop you from doing so. But of course, Man City will have more money than most other teams. what about the key aspect, the actual matches, watching the games? Now, the polygons have improved in this, the lighting has improved, lighting, obviously a key aspect in how the graphics looked, but don't expect FIFA 14 or maybe FIFA 07 for that matter. It's still way behind what you see in terms of other footballing games, but of course that is more focus on the actual gameplay as a player, not the managerial aspect. So I'd say it has improved, but don't really expect anything fantastic there. Now, supposing you don't really have that much time, I really like the classic mode because it cuts out all of the fluff which you have elsewhere in the game. There's no meetings, there's no press rounds, it's just going back to the old days, maybe 10 years ago, the days of Champman, you can get in and play the really fun aspects of the game without micromanaging everything about your football club or the league, etc. So obviously, it's a lot of fun, and I tend to find myself playing classic mode more than any of the other modes. It's give and take. Maybe you like one, maybe you don't like the other. There's also the online modes where you can take friends on and stuff like that, which is really, really fun. Another really cool thing would be the challenge mode, where you get given scenarios. Go a season unbeaten, a la Arsenal, the invincible era. Perhaps you can't win anything with kids scenario, where famously Alan Hansen, after David Beckham, Paul Scholes, Gary Neville were all debuting for Manchester United and they lost, he said you can't win anything with kids. You have to prove them wrong and win it with a bunch of youngsters, the league, etc. So that's really, really fun, and obviously scenarios which you envisioned doing before are just put onto the screen and you can see if you can put your wits against the computer, of course. At the end of the day though, Football Manager 2014 just shows off everybody in the market. I mean, given the fact that some of the other competition which is out there said they're not going to produce any more games, is it no surprise that this is still the juggernaut to be played? It is astounding the amount of detail involved. I mean, I haven't even scratched the surface of what you can do. For example, in terms of transfers, if you want to bring in a player, it's now a lot more involved in terms of negotiations and the options that are available there. To the point where, supposing it's a youth player, you can have an immediate loan back set there. We can see that in the real world of football. Supposing you want to buy an upcoming youngster, you can loan straight back to the club, and obviously that has a heavy hand in helping proceedings as you are playing the game. Now, even other aspects of it, for example, changing the training. Supposing you want them to have more fitness, you up the training schedule here and there, but you find the players getting more tired during the game. You sign a new player, a hotshot superstar. Suddenly you find that he's upsetting the balance of the rest of the team. I mean, that is an incredible amount of detail and a lot of things you have to think about as you are playing. Obviously, if that's not for you, you just want the classic mode, it's still better than anything else out there in my honest opinion. It is so much fun there as well. They really have thought of something for everybody. Maybe you don't want that. Maybe you just want the challenge mode. They have that for you as well. Online mode. Cloud saving allows you to go and play here, here, and here. It really, really means that Football Manager 2014 is the best of the best, the most engrossing football simulation game out there. Not just football, but I think in most of the sports that you can find in terms of simulation games as well. On the surface, it may not look like many changes, but little tweaks of the formula, little tweaks underneath the surface ensure that Football Manager stays on top of its game. Definitely better than last year's version, and highly recommended by me if you're a football fan. If you're not, don't buy the game. Seriously, don't. If you have no time on your hands and you are a football game, try to avoid it because you will become addicted like I am. So go away because I want to continue playing. Sadly, we are at the end of today's episode, but you know what? I like this Bougie Cafe so much. I think I'm gonna come back here next week with, of course, brand new content and plenty more exciting things for you, only here on Gadget Nation. Perhaps a little bit of the PlayStation 4. In the meantime, find us on Facebook and Twitter. My name is Adam Carruthers. Until next time.